Free is expensive and expensive is sometimes cheap. You will get what I mean by that in 1 second. Let me first tell you a story from maybe 2, 3 years ago when I was reaching out to people every single day asking if I could work for them for free. There was one guy who was kind enough to respond to one of my messages and we became friendly and we would have calls every single month. And I wouldn't take those calls too seriously. I would put it in my calendar and I'd remember maybe 20 minutes before the call and we'd hop on the call and we would just talk back and forth and we would go over a few different ideas, but I didn't have a structured plan for what we were doing. And he was a consultant for a lot of people and he said that he charged for his services. I didn't even know what that meant. He said he was going to charge me $5 a call. And I was like, okay, perfect. That's super cheap. I don't care. And I never took it seriously. About 2 to 3 calls went by and he's like, dude, you haven't paid me. And I was like, yeah, it's $15. He's like, you don't understand. He's like, I charge $500 per call. Right now, I'm giving you the best deal of your life at $5. You don't take these calls seriously at all. You don't ask me structured questions. You don't have a plan going into this. What the fuck are you doing? He's like, you're wasting my time and yours. He said, when you pay for something, you have skin in the game. And when you have skin in the game, you take things more seriously. He said, there is a psychology as to why you pay for things. He said, if you pay for some sort of course, you are going to learn a lot more for it than if you got it for free. He said, that is guaranteed because you put your money on the line, you bought it, therefore you think that you need to receive all of the value and you take notes, you plan for it, you try and implement what you learned because you paid for that. Whereas you've been getting these calls for free for $5 an hour, you don't realize the value that you are actually getting. He said, I'm doing you a favor with these. He's like, I don't want to have these calls. Obviously not. He said, I'm charging you $5 and you can't even pay me. Come on, man. It hurt really bad at the time, but I realized that he was right. I wasn't taking it seriously. And if I did have to pay $500 per call, I would have planned out every single month. I would have planned and structured 10 different questions that I wanted answered to the highest possible degree and to the follow-ups that I would have thought of. And then I would have applied whatever he said because guess what? He actually had so much credibility. He was doing this in retirement for fun, but he still knew that skin in the game was important. And it is. I've paid for courses. Literally, I paid for a $10,000 event. And guess what? After I paid for that event, I tripled my income in 2 weeks after that because I had the skin in the game. I went there, got the most out of it, and I applied what I learned. I bet that if I went to that for free, I would not have applied anything that I learned. And I realized that with myself. And I wish that I could I wish that I could learn these lessons for free, but it just doesn't happen. Usually you put money in and that is skin in the game and that makes you take things seriously. So sometimes you could be getting the best deal in the world for free or for no cost. And then it's actually really expensive because you don't gain the value that you otherwise would have. Whereas if I paid the $500 per call, I probably would have made a lot more money because I would have asked him more structured questions. I would have been more prepared. And more importantly, I would have applied what he was teaching me. And if I applied that, I probably would have been able to do something with my life instead of just aimlessly wandering around like the loser I was. So cheap can be expensive because though if I did pay for that, if you sometimes pay for the expensive product, you actually get much more result out of it. And I've seen that with myself and with other people time and time again. I brought one of my buddies to a mastermind that I got to go to, and it was $50,000 a year, and I got to go for free. But I take those very, very seriously because I understand the value. And these people, they didn't care because they were going for free. They didn't realize the opportunity that was given to them. Whereas if they had to put in the time, the effort, and the money, I bet they would have taken it much more seriously. Same thing, I've offered a bunch of people to go to different events with me that would have been free for them, but I was paying for or I got to go to because of some of my connections, and they were huge opportunities. And I get turned down pretty much every single time. And I think back and I'm like, I'm almost a little disappointed because they don't understand the opportunity at hand. But because it's free, it seems expensive because nothing good is free. But if they did pay for it and they did have skin in the game and they did put a lot of their time and effort into getting there, they would approach those situations much more differently. So sometimes paying the money for something actually gives you way more benefit over the long run. Another example is one of these $10,000 courses that I did buy. You get something online with it, and I shared it to all of my friends. I said, "Hey, I got this huge thing. It's actually really good stuff. You can check it out." And not a single person even logged into it. It cost $10,000, and no one even wanted to log into it. And if you did, and you learned everything in there, then I guarantee you would have learned a lot. And if you applied it to your business, you could have done a shit ton with it. But I've always seen that happen. If somebody else doesn't have skin in the game, myself included, if I don't have skin in the game, I don't take it as seriously as if I did. And sometimes skin in the game is just massive amounts of time and effort that goes into it. Like these events that I go to for free, I get extreme value from because I understood what it took to get there, to go and hang out with these people. It was definitely not for free. Uh, Free is not just a monetary aspect, but it's the time and energy that can also go into it. And I'm sure there's people watching this, well, no one watches, but if there were, that have gotten a huge opportunity and they took it for granted because it was for quote unquote free. And that actually ends up turning it into a very expensive learning lesson, or you probably don't even learn from it because the expense is what you could have taken out of it, but you didn't. And if you did pay for it, that actually could have ended up being a free opportunity or a very cheap opportunity with how much money you made over the long run. And then it really just comes down to applying what you learn. And when things are free, you don't apply. When you pay for it, I usually do apply it. And I'm trying to be able to take anything for free and still apply it because that would make my life a whole lot easier. But the world usually doesn't work that way. Goodbye.